It's about to happen, and it's time for Joe to come out, and here he comes. Joe Siegel's going to talk about what's happening.
All right. Long fight, but we won. All right. We have now the master band, a creative giants in all the field of modern music. We're going to bring them on one by one. We'd like you to welcome them as you will in a great Chicago fashion. First of all, on piano, a gentleman who was right there at the inception of the modern jazz era in the late 40s, middle 40s, late 40s, and one of the very finest pianists and composers in all of modern music. We'd like you to welcome Walter Bishop, Jr. Walter Bishop. On bass, the real bass, the wooden acoustic bass, the gentleman who is considered by most of his peers as the #1 man on the instrument, and one that was there at the very beginning, had much to do with the original Dizzy Gillespie band and the Modern Jazz Quartet, the fabulous Ray Brown, ladies and gentlemen. The next gentleman is the main man of the percussion. He is the one that crystallized everything that went before and made it all into a new idiom, and one that we're all still drawing on. Swing, music, melody, harmony, all in percussion. The #1 drummer in the world, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Max Roach. Max Roach. There is, in the bebop era, we heard mostly trumpet, alto, and tenor. There were very few gentlemen that played the baritone saxophone and really made a lot of musical sense out of it. There is one gentleman today who was there in the beginning, played with Dizzy's original band, and has been playing throughout the world with various kinds of groups, and is certainly one of the very top baritone saxophonists in the world. Mr. Cecil Payne. Cecil Payne. Yeah, Moody is right. Ladies and gentlemen, there's very little need be said about this gentleman. He also was in Dizzy's original band, and one of the very few men in the history of any kind of music to become world famous with 2 8-bar breaks on Emanon. I think a lot of you remember that. Everybody said, "Who's that?" Here's the original man himself, Mr. Moody's Mood, James Moody. James Moody. Who's that?
Dizzy Gillespie just walked on stage, and that's what all that noise was about. Everybody's here to hear this band, Dizzy Gillespie and the All-Stars. Dizzy Gillespie is clowning as he usually does with Moody, and very relaxed, leaning against the piano, just about to go into the first tune. The audience has really been anticipating this particular set because these are master musicians, and they're just about to demonstrate once again, to give a further demonstration of what bebop is all about, and they really are very special. Here is Dizzy just about to start the first tune.
calling me so very close to you turns me your slave. Come and do it for me if you want to. Anything, baby, just let me get next to you. Am I insane or do I really see heaven in your eyes? Bright as stars that shine up above us in the clear blue sky. How I worry about you, just can't live my life without you. Baby, come here, don't have no fear. Oh, if they wonder why I'm really feeling in the new for love. So tell me why stop to think about this weather, my dear. This little dream might fade away. There I go talking out of my head again. Oh baby, won't you come and put our two hearts together? That would make me strong and brave. Oh, when we are one, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid. If there's a cloud above us, go on and let it rain. I'm sure together we can both endure a hurricane. Oh, my baby, come and love me and give me relief from this awful misery.
What is all this talk about loving me, my sweet? I am not afraid, not anymore, not like before. Can't you understand me? Darling, please pull yourself together. You see, my soul's on fire. Come on and take me, I'll be what you make me.
Oh, baby, you make me feel so good. Let me take you by the hand. Come, let us visit out there in that new promised land. Maybe there we can find a good place to use our loving state of mind. I'm so tired of being without love. Never know what love's about. Cause Gillespie, you can come and blow now if you want to. I'm through.
James Moody! Ow! Good God Almighty. All right, y'all. Sit down now. Sit down there. Sit down. Sit down. Go ahead, sit down. Go on, sit down now. You ain't paid nothing to come in here. Shit. Sit down. All right. Here's another one for you. Here's another giant, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Ray Brown. Rabin. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been very generous with your loud ass self. And now, the master, Max Roach. Max Roach. Roach. Cecil Payne. James Moody. Ray Brown. Walter Bishop. Joe Siegel.
Dizzy Gillespie, Max Roach, Ray Brown, Walter Bishop, Cecil Payne, James Moody, the Master Band. You want me to sing?
As you can hear, the crowd is yelling for more. They're standing, they're whistling, they're screaming, and the All-Star Band has just gone off the stage. They took a bow. They really played a magnificent set. Walter Bishop Jr. at the piano and Ray Brown. The rhythm section was just fantastic, as was the front line. It's really a great tribute to the kind of idea, the celebration of the 60th anniversary of Charlie Parker's birthday. Certainly with the big picture of Charlie Parker up on the stage and everyone relating to the spirit that Charlie Parker created his music in. It's really been a very exciting evening, and Jazz Alive has been proud to bring it to you. You can hear the reaction from the people here in Grant Park. This is really a very special evening, as we said in the very beginning. There are so many things that one could talk about in terms of highlights of the evening, and certainly the brief kinds of solos that were played by the final group are indications that one doesn't have to play a lengthy solo to be extremely creative and certainly get this kind of response from the crowd. They're still yelling. They really want to hear some more. And it's really, there are at least, the police estimate there are at least 50,000 people in this park. This is the biggest crowd we've had all week, and they are screaming and stomping and asking for more. And I'm sure if those of you who are hearing this on the satellite could be heard, you would be doing the same. Charlie Parker was a remarkable musician, and I think that the spirit of what's going on. Here comes Dizzy Gillespie, and you can hear everyone yelling. Came out and took a bow, a typical Dizzy Gillespie bow. And there's no way they're going to get these guys off once they get on again, so this is going to be really exciting to see what happens. Ray Brown has come on the stage, Cecil Payne, James Moody. Dizzy's getting ready to talk.
Ladies and gentlemen. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute now. Hold it. Hold on a minute, I have a special announcement. Wait a minute, shut your mouth now. I have a special announcement. You know, as you know, today is the birthday of Charlie Parker. And we're going to have a quintet of voices, a cappella,
as well as you out there,
to sing happy birthday to Yardbird.
Big right.
No, don't do that. What?
I said happy birthday. I said hi. I should have said hi, Joe, happy birthday.
Yeah, Moody. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I said Charlie Parker.
Yeah, bird.
All right.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to
That was James Moody giving the call and response birthday greeting to Charlie Parker, and I'm sure he heard it and responded. I know the audience did. That's Dizzy playing the Juice Harp. Dizzy Gillespie, always on to do some bit of business. This is Jazz Alive salute to the birthday of Charlie Parker.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does end the program for tonight. But remember, there are 2 more nights of superb,
I'm Billy Taylor.
music.
This Jazz Alive special from the 1980 Chicago Jazz Festival was produced by Tim Owens. Our associate producer and director is Fred Bork. Technical director, Paul Blakemore. Mix engineer, Bob Knock. Our assistant directors are Wiley Rollins and Smokey, John Smokey Bear. Mix consultant, Michael Kaskuna. Our production assistants are Leroy Fields of WNIU DeKalb, Ken Gagney of WBEZ FM Chicago, and Joe Siegel. Our technical assistants are Rich Rary, Steve Taylor, Ken Razik, Dave McNutt, and Michael Engelhoff. Our master control operator is Greg Monte. Our publicity coordinator is Ruth Lee. We'd like to express our sincere appreciation to the City of Chicago and Mayor Jane M. Byrne, who are sponsoring the 1980 Chicago Jazz Festival, and also the Jazz Institute of Chicago, who are coordinating this year's events. Sound for the Chicago Jazz Festival is being coordinated by Jim Brown. I want to thank you for joining us tonight, and please tune in tomorrow night when Jazz Alive's exclusive coverage of the 2nd Annual Chicago Jazz Festival continues with an all-Chicago program celebrating 6 decades of Windy City Jazz. The John Campbell Quartet, the Douglas Hewitt Group, Lorez Alexandria, Roy Eldridge with the Barrett Deems Big Band, and Earl Father Hines and his Grand Terrace Orchestra with Bud Johnson. That's tomorrow night on most of these NPR stations. Then on Sunday, we'll be back again for the grand finale, the Art Ensemble of Chicago, Alejo, Paveda, and 4 or More, Muddy Waters, Stan Getz, and Lionel Hampton and his orchestra, swinging to a close the 1980 Chicago Jazz Festival. That's Sunday night, also on most of these NPR stations. Production funds for this program were provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the National Endowment for the Arts. And from Chicago, this is NPR, National Public Radio. I'm sitting here with Ray Brown, who is one of my all-time favorite people, and it's been a long time since I was a sideman in the Ray Brown Trio, and that was a lot of fun. Hello, Ray Brown.
Billy Taylor, how are you?
I'm very well. When did you come in to Chicago?
I got in on the red eye.
Came right in and ready to play. One of the things that I want to ask you quickly, what are your remembrances of the early days with Dizzy Gillespie when you were coming right out of the Oscar Pettiford kind of fold and developing your own style?
Well, even prior to the Oscar Pettiford thing, it was the Jimmy Blanton thing.
I know,
you know?
I know.
And as a matter of fact, I was working with Dizzy on 52nd Street, famous door, the first time I saw Pettiford. I had met Oscar's sister, Leah, in Pittsburgh, because she was there playing piano when I was a kid. Matter of fact, the first time I ever saw chords, she had this little book that she used to sit up on the piano. And then they'd call a tune, and she'd leaf through this little book and start playing. And I said to her one night, I said, "What is that?" She said, "Well, those are chords to the songs, you know." And she sat down and explained them to me, you know.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And she said, "I got a little brother who plays the bass." I like that line. She said, "I got a little brother that plays the bass." She said, "You ought to meet him sometime." She said, "He plays pretty good." She said, "But I couldn't get him to study either, you know." Like she was saying, neither one of you guys know chords, you know. But and then I met Oscar because he was with Ellington at the time. And that's when I first met him. Mm-hmm. He came in one night while I was working with Dizzy. Scared me to death.
Yeah, he was a monster.
Oh, boy.
But you've scared your enough guys yourself.
Well, everybody gets their turn in the barrel. You
That's
know?
right.
Yeah.
That's for sure. You know, one of my all-time favorite records of yours is one that you made with Oscar Peterson at the Stratford Festival in Canada.
Yeah.
And I've always teased Oscar about that record because that's the Ray Brown trio with Oscar Peterson.
Well, I tell you what happened. We just got lucky because we had followed the Modern Jazz Quartet on that gig, and John Lewis had stayed over. And John Lewis went in the booth with the guys that were mixing.
Oh, yeah. And so he
make
really
sure that they got a good sound. You know?
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that was a stroke of luck, you know, that he was in there because...
Sure brought out the best in the trio.
Oh, man. You know, it's one of our better records, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, you could hear everybody breathing, everybody's footwork, everything, you know. But that's what music is, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, you can't have music so clean that you don't hear what accompanies it, you know.
That's right. Absolutely. It's all an integral part.
You know,
it
guy
works
said,
together.
I can hear you breathing. I said, well, if you ever can hear me breathing, I'm in trouble, you know. Let's get a little bit of that because
Sure.
it helps, you know.
It sure does. Well, Ray, tell me, what about your remembrances of Charlie Parker when you worked with him, and just remembering him?
Well, I have a lot of good remembrances of Bird. You know, the very first thing I remember of Bird was much before I met him. Two things. When I was in high school, my older brother, came home with a record one day, and he said, I want you to hear this guy singing the blues. And it was a McShann record with Walter Brown.
Right.
You know. And so he put this record on and it started playing, and before Walter Brown started singing, a saxophone player played two courses of blues. I said, wait a minute. I said, play that again. Let me hear the saxophone player again, you know. And that was Bird, you know. Yeah. And then we used to have those street dances in those days. This is something that we were talking about, you know, like the Jazzmobile.
Right.
Well, they had street dances where they blocked off a whole block.
Whole block, yeah.
And they put up a bandstand, and then they would bring in bands to play. Well, McShann's band used to do a lot of those. And Bird came in and played on one of those with McShann band in Pittsburgh, you know.
Oh, that's wild.
And I'm talking about 1938.
Really? That early?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's wild.
So then when I met Bird was at a rehearsal at Dizzy's house. When I first
were you
got to
rehearsing?
New York.
What kind of Dizzy's music or what?
Well, this is the first night Dizzy offered me a job and told me to be at his house at rehearsal the next night. And I just got there, and there were 4 guys there. I didn't know any of them. It was Bird, Dizzy, Max, and Bud.
4 guys, right, okay.
I told guys, I said, if I knew who they were before I got there, I wouldn't have showed up. And Bird was a fascinating man, you know, and the two things about Dizzy and Bird, which makes it interesting. If I wanted to find out something musically from Bird, he would pick up his horn and say, "Oh, so, you know."
Right.
And then he'd leave, you know. Well, and then if I wanted to get it from Dizzy, he wouldn't pick up his horn. He'd go to the piano and say, "Now, you know." But
That's
I mean,
right.
you know, you got to ask questions. That's
for
how
sure.
we all learn, you know.
Well, you wrote a lot of tunes in Ray's idea and a lot of things that were in the vernacular in those days. When did you start composing that kind of music?
I started writing after I joined Dizzy. You know, I had done some arranging in Snookum Russell's band, but I didn't do any original songs, you know.
Tell me about Snookum Russell's band. Who was in that band? This was before Dizzy.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Well, there were people like, prior to me getting in that band, there were arrangements there by J.J. Johnson when I got there. And they had just had a trumpet player had just left when I got there, Fats Navarro.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that was really a band.
Oh, yeah. He had some good guys come through that band. The Turntine Brothers played with Snookum.
Was this a Pittsburgh band?
No. Snookum Russell's out of New Orleans. But all the bands in those days, Tiny Bradshaw and Nat Tolles, all these bands.
Played the theaters.
But they came to Indianapolis when they were off. And whoever had a tour would pick up the musicians and leave, you know. So when you're out of work, you go to Indianapolis, and the next tour that came up, you got a job. You know?
Great. Yeah. Well, in playing in big bands in those days, that gave you a different kind of experience from playing with Dizzy and the rehearsal you were talking about with Bud and Max.
Right.
What was the difference?
Well, the big band playing teaches you how to play with somebody. You know, you get in a small group, a lot of times you're on your own, you know. There could be times when you're playing a solo alone. There could be times when you're playing with just a rhythm section. But big band playing teaches you how to play with people, you know, how to play behind a saxophone section, how to play behind a full band, how to shade, you know, and this is a necessary part of music. You know?
Well, you have something that I've always enjoyed, especially in your own groups, and most of us refer to it as shifting gears. And I mean, you start off and it's like you're in first, and then you really start gearing up, and by the time you really get into drive, I mean, it's really driving, and that's something that a lot of young players have not focused on to the extent that I'd like to see.
Well, yeah, well, I try to get a lot of young players not to start off in drive.
Right.
That's all. You know, I mean, they got all the facilities, but you just have to, as the guy says, you got to learn what notes not to play.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the bass as an instrument, how do you see the bass? Where do you see the acoustic bass going now?
Well, you know, the acoustic bass has had a lot of competition from the electric bass, mostly due to the fact that they're so hard to move around, and a guy can put electric bass in a case, and they don't care whether it falls off the airplane or not, because, you know, it's not going to hurt it. So it's easy to carry, and it's a lot of bass players who play string bass have lost jobs or have had to change just due to the fact of not being able to put them on airplanes, or guys don't want to be bothered paying all that overweight and stuff, you know. And but it seems to be making its way back now.
Well, you certainly are being very helpful in that regard. I mean,
well, I've never left, so I intend to be here.
Good. Well, you actually on the Merv Griffin show and some of the other things, you have played electric bass.
Yeah, I play a little electric bass, but whenever there's any solo spots, I play the string bass.
Right,
you know,
right.
So,
well, what do you think, I mean, in your recording and things, since you have to do that, what do you think about it as another instrument, as a double, or how do you think of it?
What, the electric bass?
The electric bass.
It has its place, you know. But, you know, I think I don't think it'll ever replace the string bass in jazz, because it doesn't have the feel, you know.
Right. Some of the rhythmic aspects are lost.
Oh, yeah, you know. It just doesn't feel right, you know.
Well, you know, it's exciting to me. I remember we played together at the Monterey Jazz Festival and on a couple of other occasions, and there is a totally different kind of feeling when one plays with Ray Brown as opposed to any other bass player. I mean, it's a very unique time center that you have, and for me, it's very easy to lock into. I get a very good feeling simply because of your rhythmic security. Was there anything that kind of settled that in your mind in terms of how you wanted to rhythmically approach jazz?
Well, I think I got that from copying Jimmy Blank, you know, because as great as the Ellington Band was, I think the one thing that everybody in that band had that made that such a great band, I mean, I've told this story many times. I've heard the Ellington Band on stage in the Paramount Theater. Sonny Greer was playing drums, and he was mad at Duke, so he said, I'm not going to play. He sat there during the show, but he didn't play. He just took a stick and beat on his little seat he was playing on a little bit. And the band swung like it was terrible, you know. I mean, when I say terrible, I'm talking about terrible good, you know.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you didn't even miss the drums, you know. So the fact is that everybody in that band had a time feel of their own. Hodges, Webster, I mean, all these guys, just put them with their own instrument by themselves, let them play, and you could say, oh,
yeah,
it's right there, you know. Yeah. So when you put all these guys together, it didn't make any difference whether it was drums or not, you know. So that's what I think I got from Blanton was, even though that band was great, I could feel his power. I mean, he had a time center, you know, and if the guys wanted to lean on that, they could if they didn't have to. If he wasn't there, they had their own time. But, you know, his time was so powerful that I think this is what I got from him more than anything else, was that feel he had of propelling that time, you know. And, you know, that's the essence of music to me, is what it feels like, you know. And I don't care if you're talking about disco music or classical music, you know, it has some kind of feeling to it, you know. And this is the feeling that I got out of, I think, you know, just directly from Jimmy Blanton. That propelling thing that he had.
When did you first hear Blanton?
On records.
Did you ever hear that thing, Plucked Again?
Oh, I heard it. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I think one of the biggest moments in my life was I made the last album with Ellington before he died.
Yes,
you know, just the two of us. And, you know, and that was a really high point in my life. You know?
How did you feel about playing with Duke?
Well, you know, I had.
I mean, not, you know, it's just not an idle question. What did you feel like as you played with him? Is what I should have
Well,
said.
it's something that had built up in me for 40 years, I guess, you know. And when I was a kid, I always wanted to go in that band and play, but you can't repeat anything. You know, once Blanton left, anybody else that went in there and did that over again, you know, it's not the same thing. You know? And I realized that after I got up, you know. It's like guys say to me, man, I sure would like to play with Oscar Peterson and do all that stuff you guys do. I said, it's not the same thing. You got to do something fresh.
Right, absolutely.
You know, I told basically, I said, you got to find a piano player like Oscar Peterson and make your own thing.
Right.
I said, then it will be fresh. You know, I said, you can't do it over again. It never works when you do it over again.
No, but you can't recapture that.
No.
That's for sure.
But two exciting things happened to me doing that album. We did a few things that he and Blanton had done. And I was surprised that he remembered them because he did those things in 39 and 40.
Right,
you know,
right.
And he hasn't done them in years.
Sure.
And then he took one whole side, and just said, I said, what are you going to play? He said, I'll play something and you follow me. And, I mean, he didn't even say a key or anything. He just hit the piano.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, you know.
Yeah. Well, he was, you know, he was just so
I don't
remarkable.
have to explain him to you.
No, he was just so remarkable, and the thing that I loved about him was his interest in and his respect for the bass as an instrument. And I mean, because his band was the first band I ever heard, and I really heard the top and the bottom. I heard the first trumpet player, and I heard what the bass player was doing, and everything sort of made sense in between because of that.
He recorded the bass better in 1939 than they record it right now.
That's true. That's true. Absolutely.
You listen to his records, you can hear the bass just as clean.
Right.
You know.
And it puts everything in perspective.
I'm constantly telling engineers this, you know. I said, it didn't happen one microphone.
That's right. But listen, I want to talk a little more about Ray Brown. Do you get to Chicago often these days? Because the last time I heard about you being here, I think you came through and played with some Chicago musicians.
That's right.
And boy, that was some kind of session, as I remember.
Well, I tell you, this was something I had to experiment with. You know, Billy, I've been doing some management and booking and different things like that. And I had a guy, one of my clients told me, he said, you know, going out on the road as a single can be difficult sometimes. You know, you got to pick up side men. Yeah. They don't know what you're doing, and some of them can't read. There's a lot of problems, you know. And I said, oh, yeah. You know how you take it.
You're right.
And so one day I was just sitting around thinking about this. I said, I think I'll go out and book myself as a single so I'll know what I'm talking about when somebody says that to me, because, you know, it's nothing like first-hand experience.
Absolutely.
But so I went out and did it in about 3 cities. But I had a lovely time here because I got some good side men.
Oh, some great guys here in Chicago. Sure.
So I had a good time here.
Well, who did you use when you were here?
I used Wilbur Campbell.
Uh-huh.
And
he was dynamite tonight.
Oh, yeah. And I used the piano player from Milwaukee, Frank Pozzello.
Oh, yeah.
You know Frank.
Right, sure.
And
yeah.
And the trumpet player here.
Art Hoyle?
Art Hoyle.
Right.
Yeah. And we had a great time.
Oh,
you know. We really had a good time.
Well, we carried a couple of things that you did on Jazz Alive, and we got such a fantastic reaction to it. A lot of people who had heard you in different sets of circumstances with Monty Alexander, with Milt, and with other guys were really delighted to hear this side of what Ray Brown did. It was a very exciting show. And I talked to some people who had come to hear you and said, well, yeah, the show was nice, but you should have heard those guys on some of those other nights.
Well, I don't know. We always say I'd like to have been recorded in the dressing room many a night.
Really?
While I was warming up.
Sure.
You should have heard me in the dressing room.
Well, Ray, I know that you have some very interesting plans. You want to talk? I don't know if you want to talk about them on the satellite at this moment, but we are broadcasting to over 200 stations, and this is going out live. And there are a lot of people who are interested in your other activities as well as what you do on the bass. So,
well, I don't have a lot to say at this time. Let me say this, Billy. I'm working on some very definitive things in the television area. And as soon as I get it in a working condition, you'll hear from me.
Terrific, because we're going to be looking forward to it. You're doing some things with the orchestra out in California.
Oh, yes,
Tell me a little about that.
Well, you know, the orchestra is from between 90 and 100 people who work in the studios.
Right.
And it's more a volunteer thing. It's a labor of love, you
Right.
know. And they're taking. Matter of fact, a good friend of ours is coming out is writing a piece for the orchestra, John Lewis.
No kidding.
For
that's
this
beautiful.
season, you know.
Oh, that's great.
And so they're getting all the good composers to write works for them, and they also have guest artists come in, you know. I think maybe you should come out and appear.
I'd love to.
And
I'd love to. Yeah.
also, I want something just to